Hello, and welcome to The Truth in Crisis. I'm Don Pinnell. Today we are reviewing the sacrileges that took place at the Fatima Shrine in May of 2004, when a group of Hindu worshippers were permitted to perform a pagan ceremony on the shrine altar. When we first published a report on this, some Catholics responded to this event with anger and revulsion, while others simply shrugged it off as a completely acceptable occurrence. At the time of the report, word was that the Vatican planned to remove the shrine rector and the Bishop of Liera Fatima. However, to this day, they have not been removed. Today, we are going to examine what this means to you and to Fatima itself. SIC Television in Portugal broadcast a news story on the Hindu worship, and here is a clip of that broadcast.
On May 5, 2004, a busload of Portuguese Hindus traveled from Lisbon to the shrine in Fatima to participate in an event that would send shockwaves of scandal throughout the Catholic world, rattling even the Vatican itself. These Hindus, led by a Hindu priest, would offer worship to Devi, not in some Hindu temple, but in the little chapel, or capellina, at the shrine, built on the very ground where Our Lady appeared to call for the conversion of Russia to Catholicism and the triumph of her Immaculate Heart throughout the world. Who is this idol Devi that Hindus worship? According to Smithsonian Magazine, she is the goddess of, quote, 1,000 names and faces. Westerners accustomed to a heavenly Father and to seeing virginal subdued images of the Madonna might find Devi and her wildly vigorous feminine power quite startling. On occasion, she is voluptuous and alluring, a playful temptress, close quote. In other words, the false goddess Devi represents the very opposite of Mary, the Immaculate Mother of God. Devi is the vulgar, earthly creation of human religion, founded on primitive superstition. Yet this is the goddess the Hindus were permitted by Father Guerra to publicly worship at Fatima on May 5, 2004, on the very ground where the Virgin Mother of the true God appeared. As a Hindu representative explained, the Hindus who settled in Portugal view the Fatima Shrine as a sacred place they were lacking for their worship of the many gods of Hinduism. The capellina is about to be used by them as a center for their worship. And so, with the approval of Father Guerra, the worship of Devi at the capellina began with a puja, a Hindu prayer to Devi in the form of an offering of flowers, placed at the foot of the statue of Our Lady of Fatima, which the Hindus regard as a representation of their voluptuous goddess of 1,000 names. While the puja was being offered to Devi, the Hindu priest who led this group of Hindus into the sanctuary of the capellina stood behind the altar where a Catholic priest would normally stand when offering the Mass in the new rite introduced by Pope Paul VI. From this position at the Catholic altar, where the holy sacrifice of the Mass is offered, the Hindu priest intoned the Shanti Pa, a Hindu prayer for peace addressed to the Hindu god Vishnu, the so-called destroyer of worlds. Rector Guerra did not hesitate to contribute to the impression that all religions are one, and this is why he permitted the Hindus to worship Devi at Fatima. He told SIC's reporter that there is a common background in all religions, born of the common humanity we all possess, and that it is very important to recognize this common background, because in the conflict between peoples, we sometimes forget our equality, which is why, he told the reporter, we have occasions for meetings such as this. The message being that all religions are equal and should have access to the Fatima Shrine. The Hindu priests and pilgrims were then received by the Fatima authorities as if they were ambassadors, according to SIC Television, which described the reception as an unheard-of gesture which can be understood as an invitation for other visits. "We don't want to be fundamentalists," said the Bishop of Fatima for the camera. Guerra and the Bishop of Fatima then allowed themselves to be draped in a Hindu prayer shawl covered with verses from Hindu scripture, the same scripture that teaches the worship of many false gods, including Devi. The events you have just witnessed led to worldwide Catholic outrage against the desecration of the Fatima Shrine. There was news that the Vatican would remove Father Guerra and the Bishop of Fatima. There was also a report of Guerra's embarrassed promise that such a thing would never happen again. And yet, this is the same Father Guerra who defended the sacrilege before the cameras of the SIC network. As of the date of this report, the Fatima Shrine is still under his control.
To further discuss the desecration that took place at the Capellina, we join Father Nicholas Gruner and John Venari.
I have with me today on our program John Venari to give us some further background information about this terrible thing that took place at Fatima. John, I know you've been studying this and following this for some time.
Yes, I actually attended a conference at Fatima a few months before this took place, and it was very clear when I attended this conference that what we're going to have in the future is something precisely as to what happened at the Fatima Shrine with the Hindus worshiping there. It was an ecumenical gathering, an ecumenical congress called The Present of Man, the Future of God, the Place of Sanctuary in relation to the sacred. And it took place on October 10th to the 12th, 2003. I stayed for all 3 days, and I was sitting right up front, and I took notes and I recorded everything. The purpose of it was, it's kind of a lowest common denominator ecumenism. What do all religions have in common? Well, all religions pray to some sort of God, so we can discuss our notion of God. All religions pray, so we can talk about prayer. And all religions have sanctuaries, places where they consider sacred. So that's what they did to this Congress. There was the discussion of the sacred within this ecumenical, interreligious.
But you might, I'm sure that you know this, John, but in fact it was organized by,
yes.
In fact, Monsignor Guerra, his name is really
yes.
Father Guerra,
yeah,
the rector.
That's very important, that this was not just something that just happened to take place in Fatima and people went to it. This was hosted by the rector of the shrine, Father Luciano Guerra. And so it was a Fatima event. And so he was very much part of it, and the bishop was hosting it and that type of thing.
Well, of course, I wouldn't want to call it a Fatima event. It was an event held at Fatima,
yes.
But certainly not in the spirit of the apparitions.
It had nothing to do with the apparitions of Fatima. It was a 3-day event. The first 2 days consisted of quote-unquote Catholic theologians. There wasn't much Catholic about them, but quote-unquote Catholic theologians giving very modernistic, liberal talks about ecumenism and interreligious dialogue and that type of thing. I'll return to the worst of them in a moment.
Well, modernist, of course, is a word which is really, if a person is a modernist, strictly speaking, he's a heretic, in as much as modernism itself is heresy. And of course, sometimes people are in modernism and they don't know it, and so they're not formal heretics because they don't know any better. And modernism is a very subtle thing in some places, so people might be taken in.
Well, that's it, because a lot of times when they're talking, some of it sounds Catholic,
yes.
and they'll be using Catholic terminology, but they've redefined it without telling you. So the first 2 days were these more modernist speakers, and the third day was a pan-religious event where a Catholic, a Protestant, an Anglican, an Orthodox, a Buddhist, a Hindu, and a Muslim. Each one talked about sanctuary in their religion. Now, one of the things that troubles us about this from the very beginning is what this does is it takes the sanctuary of Fatima, which is a true place of visitation that Our Lady, hallowed by her appearance there. It takes that solid truth, that sacred spot, and it puts it on the same level as shrines that are based on the superstitions of various religions, such as Hinduism and Buddhism and that type of thing.
Well, and right there, first of all, St. Francis Xavier, the great apostle of India, said that all the pagan gods were really devils.
Yes, and he's just quoting.
So basically, we have in sacred scripture, we have what does light have with darkness? What does Christ have with Belial? That's a false god. And so what relationship, there shouldn't be no relationship, because they're in opposition to each other.
There shouldn't be any, and that's why the Catholic Church has always forbidden this type of putting the true religion on the same level.
The real scandal is putting one on the level of...
That's just the first scandal.
Yeah.
Yes, that's just the first. Now, on Saturday was probably the worst speech. I've gone to a number of these new church conferences, so to speak, and I take notes and I report on them in Catholic Family News and the Fatima Crusader. And so I've been to a lot of these things, but what one priest said there was, his speech was the worst I have ever heard. It was a theologian named Father Jacques Dupuis. And basically the whole point of his talk was to say that all religions are positively willed by God. And that all religions are equal partners in the reign of God.
So when the word positively willed means God permits many things. Sometimes somebody commits murder. God does not will that murder to take place, but God has allowed that murder to take place. but it's not positively willed by God. It is simply allowed. So it's one thing to say that God allows certain things to take place. It's another thing to say God positively desires and wills and wants that thing. And so what this so-called theologian Dupuy said was that God wills all these religions. Well, then God is basically, he's positing that God contradicts himself, that God doesn't have any truth, that God doesn't care for his own honor.
Well, it's straight against the first commandment. Our Lord said very clearly, I am the Lord thy God, thou shalt not have strange gods before me. Now, if Jacques Dupuy is saying that these other religions that worship these false gods are positively willed by God, then you have a contradiction of God saying, worship no God but me, but then also saying, well, if they worship other gods, that's positively willed by me. This is the lunacy of the Jacques Dupuy modernist religion. So he said that. He also said the Council of Florence, which is a dogmatic council that Catholics have to believe in order to consider themselves Catholic, teaches that there is no salvation outside the Catholic Church. It's dogmatically defined.
In fact, the phrasing of that dogmatic definition, which is infallible, which cannot be changed, and which Catholics, to be a Catholic, must believe, it says neither pagans, nor heretics, nor schismatics, nor what do I have them all?
Yes, pagans, heretics, Jews,
schismatics can enter the kingdom of God unless beforehand they convert
to the Catholic faith
and become Catholic.
This is the Council of Trent. It's Florence, rather, Council of Florence, a sacred dogma defined by the Catholic Church. Father Jacques Dupuy said to the audience, we need not invoke here that horrible text from the Council of Florence. Now, this is an outright rejection of a defined dogma of the Catholic Church. He also said that the purpose of dialogue is not to make non-Catholics Catholics, not to convert them to the Catholic faith, but that the Christian will be a better Christian, the Hindu a better Hindu. Now, it's bad enough that type of event would take place, and this theologian would say this from the podium to a packed house, but the response to his talk was complete applause from the audience.
Well, and the audience, of course, was among them.
It had the top brass of the Portuguese hierarchy. It had the shrine rector where I was sitting right next to him. I have a film of him applauding for Father Dupuy. Next to me on my right was the apostolic delegate of Portugal. He applauded.
The representative of the Pope. The
representative of the Pope. Over here, one seat beyond him was the Bishop of Liera Fatima. The Cardinal Patriarch of Lisbon was there. And worse yet, the next day, on Sunday, Archbishop Michael Fitzgerald from the Vatican, rather than say Father Dupuy has taught some things that aren't quite right, not quite Catholic, he gave Father Dupuy unqualified praise. He said, Father Dupuy yesterday gave us the theological basis for our relations with other religions.
So, I mean, obviously, this is certainly scandalous, if not worse. I mean, first of all, people should not follow their example. Even Archbishop Michael Fitzgerald, is that his name?
Yes.
Or the rector, or the Bishop of Fatima, or the Cardinal Patriarch of Lisbon, or the Papal Nuncio, and whoever else was there that was approving of this, because obviously this stuff is against the faith.
Well, one of the most disturbing things happened on that Sunday too with Archbishop Fitzgerald, because he was presiding over this Congress of the various representatives from various religions saying, talking about their shrine. But the most disturbing thing came from the Catholic priest, a priest named Father, they told us his name was Father Irideum. He was from the shrine in Valakali, India, a Marian shrine, and he said, Hindus worship in their rights in the sanctuario. Sikhs worship in their rights in the sanctuary, in other words, in the Catholic shrine. And so, writing about this, I said, it's in December of 2003, I said it's just a matter of time before some sort of pagan worship takes place at Fatima.
So now,
and you published that, I published that, and then 5 or 6 months later, on May 5th, 2004, we had the Hindu ceremony at Fatima that the viewing audience just saw.
And just in defense of the people of India and the Catholics in India, I made further investigation after this event took place and found out more recently that what this priest from India said took place has never taken place, to the best, unless it took place at 2 o'clock in the morning when no one was there, because it would have been known all over the country. But nevertheless, it was used as the occasion.
Yes.
This false report was used as the occasion.
I have it
for
on.
this.
I have it on. I recorded him saying it, and it was because of statements like this. It was very clear to see the direction that the Fatima Shrine was headed, away from the Catholic religion, away from the very truths of the Catholic faith that Our Lady at Fatima came to reinforce.
So they used this falsehood of what took place in India, which never took place in a Catholic shrine in India, and it's a very famous shrine, Our Lady of Valankani, Our Lady of Good Health, and they used this falsehood in order to actually promote the actuality of this thing. And the shrine, the scandal still is, of course, that the Vatican, of course, has sent an investigator, and we still don't know why they haven't removed the rector. But I'm told that the rector still tells people in 2005, a year afterwards, that nothing took place. And when I was in Fatima recently, I showed it to a person who said he heard it from the rector's own lips, and they were surprised, shocked to see what our people have just seen a few moments ago that was broadcast on Portuguese television. But the rector is still denying it to those people who don't know what took place. That is why it's important for people to pray for the rector and the bishop to be removed from that place so that Our Lady of Fatima can let her message shine through instead of having to be filtered out by the rector and the bishop that they've had there up to now in the last, and letting this thing happen. Is there anything else? I think we're running out of time here, John, on this particular segment. Anything else you want to add?
Well, the fact that this happened shows the need for reparation.
Yes.
The need for reparation, because those who are in charge of the Fatima Shrine have given the shrine over to this false religion and allowed things that could never take place. I mean, you know, I as a Catholic layman, I am not allowed to stand at the Catholic altar and conduct a prayer service, yes, let alone a Hindu,
yes,
invoking false gods.
Yes, exactly.
It's
a terrible scandal. It's a scandal and a crime, really.
And to this day, the shrine officials at Fatima have yet to apologize for it. In fact, they are hostile to those Catholics who resist and who stand up and say this is wrong, yes, and it must be repudiated.
We're not talking about people, individuals of another religion going to Fatima to see what it's about. We're talking
about, that's fine.
We're talking about people going there as a false religion, going as a non-Catholic religion, and conducting their service at the Catholic altar, and in fact at the very place where Our Lady appeared 6 different times, just in that sacred part of the shrine, which is known as the Capellinea, the little chapel which is built right on the spot where Our Lady appeared. It's important for us to not let this rest and to pray in reparation, and certainly to pray that the bishop and the rector be removed as soon as possible, and that the Vatican take a stand sooner than later.
And now let's hear from Chris Ferreira with a healthy dose of the truth.
Well, seeing is believing, and you've just seen it. Hindu rituals taking place at the Catholic shrine in Fatima, the very place where Our Lady of Fatima appeared in 1917 to ask for the conversion of Russia to the Catholic religion and the triumph of her Immaculate Heart, the object of uniquely Catholic devotion throughout the world. But let's be honest, what's going on at Fatima is only one example of a whole plethora of crazy events we have seen taking place in the Catholic Church since the Second Vatican Council ended in 1965. We've seen, of course, a new liturgy that bears no resemblance whatsoever to the traditional Latin liturgy. This was followed by a catastrophic decline in Mass attendance. We've seen crazy ecumenical events with pro-abortion Protestant ministers who are treated as if they were legitimate preachers of the gospel when they defend the murder of children in the womb. We've seen all manner of bizarre liturgies, even at papal masses. And we've seen, of course, unspeakable scandals in the Church, about which quite enough has been said and written already. What we have seen, in essence, over the past 40 years is the emergence of what could be called neo-Catholicism in the Catholic Church. And the people who practice this religion could fairly be called neo-Catholics. What do I mean by that? There's an analogy in the political realm that would be helpful here. People speak of neo-conservatives in politics. These are people who are somewhat conservative in certain areas, but very liberal in other areas. In other words, they simply aren't conservatives in the traditional sense of the word. They've been liberalized. Now we see in the Catholic Church a kind of neo-conservative Catholicism, or neo-Catholicism for short. Now, in fairness, most of the people who live in what could be called the neo-Catholic current of Roman Catholicism today are there in good faith. Many, or not most of them, were born after the Second Vatican Council. They don't know anything but what their bishops have provided for them. They try to practice the faith as best as they can. Many of them are devout in spite of the changes. Yet it can't be denied that these changes have caused havoc in the church. A complete drop in vocations, a catastrophic loss of people in the pews in terms of baptisms, conversions, marriages, and so forth. The vital statistics of the church have dropped off the charts. So Neo-Catholicism has not been good for the church. And yet among the Neo-Catholic current, there are certain spokesmen who do know better. They know that these changes have been harmful, and yet they defend them. I'm speaking primarily of organs of the Neo-Catholic press, who for one reason or another have wedded themselves to these novelties, the new Mass, the new liturgy, the new ecumenism, even prayer meetings in Assisi where the Pope invited witch doctors to give a sermon on world peace. They defend these things, and they have given themselves a stake in defending these things. And they are largely responsible, in my view, for the perpetuation of this chaotic situation. Well, I say to these spokesmen, the time for what Thomas E. Woods has called the Neo-Catholic excuse factory is over. The time has come to stop making excuses for the disastrous results of these novelties and to return to tradition. One spokesman who did do that, and he's a sterling example of intellectual honesty in this area, is Father Stephen Somerville. Father Somerville was directly involved in preparing the English translations of the New Mass. After reading literature produced by traditional Roman Catholics who were protesting the changes, Father Somerville realized that the New Mass and his role in it were a disaster for the Church. He publicly repudiated his involvement in the new liturgy, and he called Catholics to return to traditional practices in the Church, including the traditional Latin Mass. And one of the functions of the Fatima Network will be to take the Neo-Catholic excuse factory to task, this week and every week. I hope you'll stay tuned for a good dose of the truth about what's going on in the Church today. For the Fatima Network, I'm Chris Ferrara.
We now join John Venari with his unique perspective.
There are those who say that there's nothing wrong with Hindus praying inside of a Catholic church because the Catholic Church is universal. Now, this is a misuse of the term. When the Church says that it's universal, it does not mean that the Catholic Church is some sort of elastic structure wherein any religion can find a home, or that any religion can practice its non-Catholic ceremonies within its walls. The universality of the Catholic Church is only one of the Church's four marks, and we can only understand the Church's universality within the context of those four marks. What do we recite in the Apostles' Creed? We say, I believe in one holy, Catholic, and apostolic church. See, those are the Church's four marks. The Church is one, the Church is holy, the Church is Catholic, coming from the Greek word katholikos, which means universal. Catholic and universal are synonymous, and the Church is apostolic. So we'll take a quick look at those four marks, starting with universal. When the Church says that it's universal, it means that the Church is not confined to just one country or to one race or one group of people or to one moment in history. No, our Lord said to his apostles, go out and teach all nations. And it's universal because it is meant to embrace all people of all nationalities, of all social classes, all races, and for all time. But it only actually embraces those who are baptized into the Church and who believe his teachings. Now, the universality of the Church is only one of the Church's four marks, and all four of these marks must be present for an accurate understanding of what the Catholic Church is. The other essential mark of the Catholic Church is its oneness. I believe in one holy Catholic Apostolic Church. And this oneness means complete unity of faith. That is, all Catholics believe the same doctrines. We don't have one group of Catholics who believe that Christ is present in the Blessed Sacrament and another who believes that he is not present. We don't have one group who believes in God as Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, and another that believes that there are many gods, as Hindus believe. So, we are one in faith. We all believe the same divine truths revealed by God. We are one in worship, the same sacrifice, the holy sacrifice of the Mass and the seven sacraments. And we are united under one head, the papacy, and the bishops in union with the papacy. Hindus and other non-Catholic religions are not one in faith with us. They do not believe the same things. They are not one in the sacraments. Hindus don't even believe in the sacraments, nor are they united with the papacy. So you can't say that the universality of the church covers them. You can't have this universality without this essential oneness. All right, the third mark of the church is that it is holy. It is holy in its origin, because it was founded by Jesus Christ. It's holy in its purpose, that is, it leads souls to heaven. It's holy in its means, the seven sacraments, the holy sacrifice of the Mass. And it's holy in its fruits, the sanctity of so many of its children. And the fourth mark of the church is that it is apostolic, that it was founded by Jesus Christ, who gave his apostles the power to teach, govern, sanctify, and offer worship in his name. And these apostles he gave that power to his apostles, and these apostles gave this power sacramentally to their successors, who gave it to their successors, who gave it to their successors, down to the present. So those who say that Hindus can worship in a Catholic sanctuary in the name of the Church's universality, they're just not telling the truth. They are misusing the term universal, and they're also cutting off the other three marks that are necessary for anything to be considered truly Catholic. I'm John Veneri.
As a baptized Catholic, you have the right to resist a Catholic Church leader of any rank who undermines the true Catholic faith in any way. Not only do you have a right, but you have a responsibility to be aware of what is going on in the Church. You can read further on the desecration at the Fatima Shrine by visiting our website at www.fatima.org. Thank you for joining us on The Truth in Crisis. I'm Don Pinnell. Our Lady of Fatima promised us in 1917 we would have world peace if Russia were properly consecrated to her Immaculate Heart by the Holy Father. 89 years have passed. The war in Iraq rages on, which proves her request is still not fulfilled. Show the Holy Father your support for this request. Call us now at 1-888-FATIMA-1 and receive your free petition kit for the consecration that will save lives, souls, and bring world peace.
Our Lady of Fatima said, "If my requests are granted, Russia will be converted and there will be peace. If my requests are not granted, Russia will spread her errors throughout the world, raising up wars and persecutions against the Church. The good will be martyred, the Holy Father will have much to suffer. Various nations will be annihilated." For more information, please call us at our toll-free number 1-888-FATIMA-1. That's 1-888-328-4621. You can also find out more on our website, www.fatima.org.